2025 British Grand Prix race notes. Dick's race notes.
Well, I thought it was a very eventful British Grand Prix and thought I'd just share a few of my race notes with you. Of course, since then, there's been a lot changing on in the world of Formula One with the firing of Christian Horner. Sabrina did a great job of kind of recapping her thoughts on that firing, and if you haven't heard it, it is posted, and I highly recommend you give it a listen. She did a great job, and I thought it was a very fair and balanced perspective on the whole thing. So I hope you enjoy it. Anyway, the British Grand Prix, a lot of fun to watch. The changing weather really caused strategies to be changed almost by the lap, it felt like sometimes. And some people got it right. Some people didn't get it so right. And in some cases, teams would try one strategy for one driver and then go on a different strategy with another driver. The result being that one driver was happy, the other driver was not happy. But that kind of way it works, and over the course of a season, those split strategies have a way of kind of balancing things out. Anyway, it was a good win for Lando Norris, but I felt it was somewhat tainted by the penalty on Oscar Piastri, who was penalized 10 seconds for his somewhat, shall we say, liberal interpretation of the restart rules. No doubt in my mind, Oscar was probably the class of the field, but the penalty was a just one, and so Lando, kind of got the fruits of that decision. Kind of like strategy, I think rules and penalties have a way of balancing each other out over the course of a season. So we'll see what happens as the year goes on. Because of the way that Oscar was driving, you can't say that Lando is now on a 2-race win streak. I mean, he is, but, is he going to be super dominant either at Spa, which is the next race, or in Hungary? I don't know. I mean, he's going to be right up there, but it really seems like some weekends Lando is the dominant driver like we saw in Austria, and other times it's Oscar who's the dominant driver like we saw in Great Britain. So I don't know. It should be pretty interesting. I think, though, while the rivalry between the two McLaren drivers is just going to be an ongoing thing this season, I think the really big story of this particular race was that Nico Hülkenberg finally finished on the podium after an excellent drive from the back of the grid. Hülkenberg is without a doubt a very talented driver, and he's just never had a very good car. And so for him to score his first podium in a Sauber that is becoming more competitive, but certainly is not looking like a world beater, that was a really big deal. And I don't know if you've seen it out on YouTube, but there's a couple of videos that show Hülkenberg with his wife and daughter and just the celebrations and all that. It's really fun to watch. That Hülkenberg has to feel like a really big monkey, maybe a gorilla, has finally come off of his back. So I was really happy to see that. Lance Stroll put in a good performance. Lance gets dogged a lot by people. So when he does well, especially in difficult conditions like this, if we're going to be fair, we got to call that out too. He did a good job. Aston Martin got their strategy on him correct. Not so much for Fernando Alonso. And Fernando was very vocal about it over the radio, which was pretty funny, but he's definitely frustrated. One thing that's interesting is that in some of the reading that I did after the race, a lot of people were saying that Lance is known as a really good wet weather driver. And so his performance at Silverstone was really not that surprising, which I thought was really interesting, that he would be well rated as a wet weather driver. Lewis Hamilton, I thought he put in an excellent performance in the very tricky Ferrari, coming home really a very nice fourth place ahead of his teammate Charles Leclerc. who finished 14th. Ferrari's kind of all over the map. I'm not really sure what to make of it, but again, Lewis is such an intelligent driver. Probably not enough is made of the fourth place that he took in that race. Red Bull just flat out struggled. Max finished 5th, and poor old Yuki Tsunoda finished 15th in a lap down. And I read an article, and Yuki was like, man, I don't know what I need to do. So it's got to be a real beatdown. Another couple items that are worth mentioning. One is that there's a big-time rumor mill going on that Franco Colapinto is done at Alpine and that he could be replaced as early as Spa by either Jack Doohan, who Colapinto replaced, or maybe even Valtteri Bottas. And rumor has it that Flavio Briatore has actually phoned Toto Wolff and asked to have the right to speak to Bottas. There's, where there's smoke, there's fire, and certainly with Briatore, there's no telling what's going on there. I think, generally speaking, the whole place at Alpine is just chaos, which just makes Pierre Gasly and what he's doing with that car amazing. I would not be surprised. I don't know what Gasly's contract looks like, but I would not be surprised if another team came in and snapped him up because he's performing at a very high level. A little bit like George Russell in that both drivers are having these really sneaky, quietly great seasons that nobody's noticing because they don't have the best car. The Alpine is clearly not as good as the Mercedes, and the Mercedes is clearly not as good as the McLarens. But both drivers are pretty much getting everything out of the car that they have been given, if not just a little bit more. So I'm really impressed with what they're doing. Last but not least, just have to have a big shout out to our friend and fellow American Jack Crawford. Won another Formula 2 race at Silverstone this past weekend. And I'm happy to report that at least some of the F1 media are now starting to take notice of this young man. Perhaps Jack will be the next American in Formula 1. I don't know. I sure hope that's the case. But one way or another, it's amazing to have the Star Spangled Banner played on the podium, and Jack is getting it done. So well done, Jack, and congratulations to you. So that's it for my British GP race notes. We're on a little bit of a hiatus schedule-wise because the Belgian Grand Prix isn't for another 2 or 3 weeks, I believe. So the teams are starting to get a little bit of a rest. And of course, right after Belgium, we go to Hungary. And then we're off the month of August in terms of racing. But we've got lots of great content coming. My son Derek and I have done a movie review of the F1, the movie. We've done a movie review now of the movie Rush, which was the story of the rivalry between James Hunt and Niki Lauda. And we've got more to come. So stay tuned, and thanks for tuning in today.
Sabrina's race notes. Number 1, rookies in the wet. All the rookies except Ollie ended up with DNFs, which really shows how challenging Silverstone is in general. Then add in the rain factor. I think it was David Coulthard who noted that British racing drivers have an advantage because they begin in karting regularly using intermediate or wet tires. This enables them to develop their racecraft in wet conditions at an earlier stage than their competitors from other countries. Number 2, Isaac and Kimi. That crash wasn't simply a Ricky mistake. It showed how difficult visibility was for all drivers considering the spray. The conditions were genuinely treacherous, making it hard to judge distances and speed. Number 3, Pierre Gasly. P8 to P6 in a hard-fought drive. He managed to stay competitive throughout the race, which flew under the radar considering all the drama happening at the end of the race. Shows his ability to capitalize on opportunities when others make mistakes. Number 4, Max and Red Bull. Max's qualifying. Absolutely pulled it out when it mattered. Truly impressive. The race, Man, it was tough to watch. You could hear the frustration from Max throughout. He's clearly not enjoying this car. Number 5, Charles and George. Both drivers pitted for slick tires, and I just didn't understand the logic. If they had been further down the grid, okay, maybe it's worth the gamble. But considering this was Silverstone, where weather weirdness seems to happen every year, I really didn't follow the willingness to take such a risk. Number 6, Lewis. Lewis had to be less frustrated this week than in recent races, even though he didn't win. Getting to P4 was a solid result. The battle with Nico in the Sauber? What does that tell us about the Sauber versus the Ferrari, at least in wet conditions? The battle actually reinforces what many of us have said about Nico. He's genuinely talented, just hasn't had a great car to showcase his abilities. Number 7, Williams. I keep telling myself they're doing better than in past years. This year's early successes may have skewed my expectations, so these recent struggles are just a reminder they're still in a rebuilding mode. However, those early successes prove their potential remains intact, and it's vital they stay focused on long-term development. Number 8, Oscar and Lando. I have to say I think Oscar deserved a penalty. I see it differently from George's braking incident in Canada. The pressure Oscar used to brake was quite dramatic, and since the safety car was ending with limited visibility, I understand why the stewards penalized him. We'd already had crashes, spins, and drivers going off. Oscar's sudden braking had the potential to create a chain reaction. Was the 10-second penalty too harsh? I don't think so. Unlike Canada, the safety car was ending and everyone was in an anticipatory mode. It was incumbent on Oscar to manage the restart properly. It's a high responsibility that he hasn't had often in wet conditions during his F1 career. Maybe that's why it was an error, but he needs to be more thoughtful about how he manages those situations. Number 9, Sauber. Earlier in the year, I struggled with my notes about this team because they seemed to be having such difficulties, and I never want to come across as attacking a team or person. Now, seeing them shine in this race gives me real hope for their future. I believe Peter Windsor has been calling it right. Sauber is building something special. Jonathan Wheatley is likely bringing this team together in meaningful ways. Number 10, Nico. I can't stop thinking about this moment. All day Sunday and through Monday, I kept reflecting on it. Everything we love about racing was captured in one afternoon. Resilience, perseverance, never giving up. He's a testament to what believing in yourself through adversity can achieve. What a moment to witness. He delivered an absolute masterclass. He's exactly why so many of us are fans of the sport. Seeing everyone cheer with him and speak of his kindness and character as much as his skill makes it even more inspiring. Thank you to Nico, his family, his daughter, and his team for being an example to all of us. This is one we'll remember for many years to come. And for those who've come into F1 after watching recent movies or documentaries, this is exactly why we watch motorsports and endure the highs and lows, even the occasional boring races. Nico's ability to move up through the grid reinforces our previous conversation with Ross Bentley about Nico's exceptional skill. If you look at Nico's performance over the last 4 races, it tells a story about racecraft that's often been overlooked because of the cars he's been driving.